And there's a perfect example of this. Every year, the world runs a multi-billion person research study on sleep deprivation twice a year. And you're like, wait, how do you do a billion person research study? Well, it's called daylight savings time. And on the part of the year when we add an hour of sleep, heart attacks and strokes go down by about 25%. When we subtract that sleep, they go up by 25%. So 1 hour plus or minus 1 hour of sleep has a 25% negative impact or a 25% positive impact on heart attack. It literally has a physiological impact on our bodies, and a lot of people don't realize it. And let me do a compare and contrast. Actually, not just melatonin, but let me also throw in prescription sleep aids. And I'm doing the air quotes because they're actually damaging. There's a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker.
Back again talking about C60 EVO, c60evo.com/adapt 2030. What can we talk about, do you think, today? Patty Greer, Chris Burr is joining me once again. Now, Patty says she has a story about preparedness and survival. I'm interested. I'm all ears. And again, some questions that were more on the science side or maybe even on the health side. And again, I do try to read the comments when you send them in, and this is a list of questions that were from the last time that we had to talk. We look out at the choices, and coming back from traveling, one thing I did see, the currency was devalued in many places that I went to. But the takeaway from that was people were eating less healthier and less expensive foods compared to a little bit healthier choices. So when it comes down to that, there might be more, say, pesticides or herbicides if you're not able to get something organic. And I noticed that was the thing. If you didn't have the money, they were buying less, and all these, a dollar store equivalents were popping up everywhere to, take over that level of people dropping down their lifestyles to match the inflation in the country's monies. So again, what you're going to put in your body is going to affect your mind and your body. So we're going to talk about all that today. So Chris and Patty, thanks for joining, and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We love doing shows with you. You and I used to talk about crop circles and assorted ET subjects, and then we evolved to the evolution of the carbon 60 molecule, ESS 60. And this was my solution to almost dying a few times because it is a miracle molecule that got me through things that I can't imagine. But what I want to say is that in the last 6 months, I've done something that none of our audiences or influencers have even noticed. It was the punchline of years of targeting and going through really intense attacks on my life because I used to know things that they didn't want me to know. I used to be a whistleblower before I realized what we were up against. And so when everybody in ufology started dying in a short period of time, I got wounded badly and silenced, and I have been quiet for years, but concerned with my health was an understatement at the time. And the hurt that I went through was my hips and low back were shattered. And I got very wounded, and I still continued to walk and do life. But in the last 6 months, I've had 2 complete hip replacements, and nobody noticed,
Hmm.
which is great because I had a major surgery, and 5 days later, I was on the air from here up, completely mental focused, completely present, not doing the pain meds that they suggested I do. I did their pain meds for 2 days, and then I got back on the Evo because this works for my body. But the amazing thing about this testimonial, which I will say, surviving these two major hip replacements in the last 6 months, was that the doctors just looked at me and they said, it's almost not human that you could have walked on bone hips, both of them grinding for all these years. And the second surgeon, they came in with three doctors and they just kept looking at me. And I thought, I'm here to interview you. What's with three of you looking at me? And they said, well, we saw your x-rays and we've never seen anybody quite like you. And I'm sitting there like, what does that mean? And they said, well, people don't walk when they're in this condition. How have you done this for years? And so we figured you'd either be mentally ill. That's why we've been looking at you, but you're obviously not. You're clearly present. And we thought maybe she's a drug addict, taking so many pain medications that she can get away with it, but you're not that either. And I said, that's true. So both of those are true. But, truth is, I make this product. My partners have the lab, so we make the strongest stuff in the world. It's ESS 60. But I basically said, I'm like an old Mercedes with major lubricant. And I've been lubricating for years with C60 Evo. So I think I have beat the science, amazed the surgeons, amazed the radiologists and doctors. And then I pulled through two surgeries like a friggin' champ. And here I am, like few months later, just going, wow, how cool that's behind me. And it's really interesting, because now I get to look at round two of my life. People didn't know that I wasn't really walking the last 6 months. I wasn't doing much. The last few years, I was doing less and less outside the house, which is great for the company because I can do all my work at home, all the shows. But I do want to encourage people that have achy bones, joints, muscles to give this a try. But for me, it was remarkable that I made it without a whole lot of effort. But for other people that are in pain, give it a try. I really think it can help.
That's a great story of hopefulness too. And again, when I kept seeing on people they had lost sort of hope in these countries that had gone to because they just see it grinding on worse. So for anything out there, it's going to be a frame of mind and a state of mind more than it will be your physical. And that's going to be the most important thing. And I can't really drive that home enough. Like that reference of where you sit in your reality of you can or you cannot do it is going to be the difference between you pulling through and finding opportunities and actually living a fulfilled life as this change around the world happens for the next decade or longer or not. So, thanks for that hopefulness right there, because that's what I kept seeing again was the people are on the cusp of losing hope. And if there's any way to, bring that back into somebody's radar again, that in itself is worth something. So, not living in pain is something to also enjoy and look forward to also. So Chris, I didn't know if you had anything to join on that there because
Focus, focus. No pain. No pain. Come on, celebrate.
yeah, I don't have the champagne.
I make it rain celebration.
So one thing I would add, just we're talking about very specific elements, and it's important to throw in the FDA disclaimer that our product is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. We often kind of come on your show, thankfully, thank you, and share some testimonials. And it's just best to assume this won't happen for you. We're just sharing some experiences. Assume it won't happen for you. If you dig into the literature, if you dig some of the science that I talk about, then great. But the testimonials are really not what to hang the hat on. Um, and yeah, I think Patty, what she's experienced and what she's come through and the way she's come through it has been absolutely amazing, right? So I'm in the background. I kind of like know that the surgery's happening, and I'm like, are you good for the show? And she's like, yeah. I was like, really? Yes, of course. So it's pretty phenomenal, what she's been through and how well she's come through it. So I'm just, I think I'm happy that she's sharing that story now.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is because medical expenses are getting so ridiculously expensive here in America. Like we were comparing over in Taiwan, just to even do something dental wise, it's about 20 times cheaper than it is doing in America. And like anytime you even see a doctor here, I have a farm, I get a couple stitches here and there, a few $100s each time you go in for a few stitches. And, at some point, if you're looking at a cost ratio here of having a functional body where you're not going to have to go into this medical system as frequently, I mean, it is mind blowing and just numbingly irksome, if that's such a word, of how
Yeah.
much this medical system costs to exist here in America. It is absolute highway robbery compared to anywhere almost on the rest of the planet. And, to be in this soup that we live in, where if you're having some ailment and you need to go in to see somebody or have some treatment, that'll take a huge chunk out of some people's savings or even wipe some people out. So to have a functional body moving through this is going to be so crucially important, as well as we continue with this more inflationary environment we're moving into. Outside the rest of the world, it's inflating everywhere to the point it's affecting. Now, when it comes here, and it's already here on American shores, how much is your doctor visit going to cost you? Is the question. You're going to go to a doctor and every time you have a sniffle, it's going to cost you 10 grand to go in there. I mean, there's things to start to look for on keeping your body more functional than, I was trying to go somewhere with the point, but I think, you can dovetail into that for me.
So when my daughter came over today, sniveling, I've been sick. But she told me a funny story, which was they went camping with another couple this weekend, and they have these gorgeous campers, and they each have 3 children. So the kids are playing, and they're going back and forth from the campers at the park and the campground, and the parents are drinking and having a great time. And I told Kelly, I said, remember, C60 Evo's a hangover helper. So the next day, I said, I was there. I gave the couple some Evo because they were already drinking and halfway there. And she said, really, a teaspoon? I said, no, I gave them a tablespoon each because I wanted to really impress them. It's kind of like a joke, but I did it anyway because it's super strong. And the next day they said, yeah, we actually felt less shitty. So that was their testimonial to a hangover helper. They said instead of being really on our, knees, they felt far less she-itty. That was their testimonial. So I thought that was kind of funny
Did
because
they
I don't
take
want to.
that over the following morning or just as they quit drinking that evening?
You take it at night before you go to bed. Normally, I never recommend taking Evo other than noon or before because it gives you energy all day. Then you sleep better at night. If I take it 3, 4 o'clock, I'm going to be up. But that's me. Chris can drink half a bottle before bed and a cup of coffee and sleep just fine.
Yeah, I definitely have never experienced taking C60 Evo later in the day and having it keep me up. Certainly have experienced the positive impact on focus and energy. And in fact, when we started bringing the product to market, it wasn't part of any of my routines. So I took it kind of hit or miss. And it was always the case that if I got to the middle of the day, and I was, hey, maybe I need a nap because I'm feeling a little tired, a little groggy. Maybe I need another cup of coffee. I could always look back and I hadn't taken my C60 Evo that morning. Now it's part of my coffee routine. And what I do, right? So we have 3 oils. We've got avocado oil, we've got olive oil, and we've got MCT oil. I put our MCT kind of like a Dave Asprey bulletproof coffee. I put the MCT oil in my coffee. That's oil and water, obviously. So while that's mixing, I'll take a teaspoon of our olive oil. Now it's part of my coffee routine. The MCT oil goes in my coffee. I take a teaspoon and a half of the olive oil while that's blending, and then I finish my coffee. And then usually for lunch, I'm having a salad, and I'll put our avocado product on our salad. So I recommend all of the flavors. I just use them in different ways at different points throughout the day. But now since it's become part of my routine, I don't get to I don't know, once every 6 months I'll get to the middle of the day. I'm like, oh man, maybe I need a cup of coffee or whatever. I'll take another shot and I'm good to go.
That kind of dovetails into one of the questions from the last time we talked. So, I mean, thank you for leaving the comments below. I try to read through every one of those and then grab something out of it to then, talk about for the next time here. So it says, you say it helps with sleep in the evenings. Compare that with melatonin. And that was a question from last time. So, we discussed sleep, after a long day, if you have that, it really helps calm the mind and then get you to sleep in the evening, or sleep through the evening, a little more soundly, shall we say. So how does that compare with melatonin?
Well, let's just first talk like what is melatonin, right? Often known as a sleep hormone. It's actually a great antioxidant. It works actually kind of in parallel, so not synchronously, but in parallel, we believe, with the ESS60 molecule inside of mitochondria. So we'll table that for a second. But melatonin is the starting gun, the firing gun for us to get ready to go to sleep, right? So it really is a time-sensitive hormone, a time-sensitive supplement that you might take. You do need to take it at the right time. And it can be beneficial when you're trying to get your sleeping rhythm in line if you're experiencing jet lag, right? So you took a trip, you're flying all over, you experience jet lag. Melatonin, if you take it at the right time, for the local time zone, can help you because, again, it's the starting gun for telling your body, hey, it's time to get ready to go to sleep. But there are a couple of problems with melatonin. One of them is if you take it at the wrong time. You can imagine if it's later in the day and you're firing and you're actually asleep, so later in the evening and you're asleep, and you've got this molecule in your body going, hey, it's time to get ready to go to sleep. No, it's actually time to be asleep. Those are two very different physiological activities. If you take too much, same thing. It can be 1 o'clock in the morning and you've got this firing gun going, hey, get ready to go to sleep. And really your physiology needs to be asleep, not getting ready to go to sleep. And that's why with melatonin, sometimes you can have grogginess in the morning. If you just got the dosing wrong, and by the way, everybody's different. And usually the dosing is significantly lower than what they're selling in individual tablets. And so people end up often being groggy on melatonin. Again, it has its place and it can be useful. I still would stick with C60 Evo. And let me do a compare and contrast. Actually, not just melatonin, but let me also throw in prescription sleep aids. And I'm doing the air quotes because they're actually damaging. There's a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker, and he talks about the $2 billion sleep aid industry. This guy is amazing. 25 years of research in sleep. He's written this amazing book. And he used to be an associate professor at Harvard. He's now at Berkeley.
This is Mysteries in the Histories. A mysterious manuscript, roughly 250-page book written in an entirely unknown language and writing system. It's been carbon dated back to the 1400s and includes illustrations of plants that don't resemble any known species, believed to have been intended as a medical text. It's named for the Polish book dealer who purchased it in 1912. This is the mystery of the Voynich manuscript. Since its discovery in 1912, the 15th century Voynich manuscript has been a strange, mysterious cult phenomenon captivating the minds of many. Its first confirmed owner was Georg Barisch from 1585 to 1662, an alchemist from Prague who discovered it in his library. Barisch tried to investigate the manuscript's origins to no avail. The manuscript, full of handwriting in an unknown language, zodiac symbols, naked women, and strange objects like unknown plants, seemed to be from another time, or even another world. For centuries, this book repeatedly changed hands. When it was purchased by Voynich, who posited that it was authored by Albertus Magnus, an alchemist, or Roger Bacon, an early scientist. People believed that Voynich himself fabricated the manuscript, although that theory wouldn't explain the carbon dating of the paper and ink to the 15th century. The book itself bears no indication of its authors, about 6 inches by 9 inches and around 232 pages decorated, not unlike others in the illuminated age. Wrapped in vellum, with vellum pages, the manuscript features 116 folded folios bound in 18 bundles. The binding of the book is old and busted, though it is not original to the text. Many of the pages are fold-outs, some are missing. Inside the tome are innumerable lines of looping text, inked in iron gall in a medium typical of the Middle Ages, scribbled in a strange, unfamiliar language and a strange, unfamiliar script, incomprehensible, causing Voynich to conclude that the tome was written in code. Alongside the text, unknown if important or decorative, there is an abundance of illustrations and pictorial art. Composed of inks and pigments in tones and color palettes common to the 1400s, These illustrations seem to split the manuscript into 4 separate sections, including sections about botany, astronomy and astrology, balneology, the science of the therapeutic use of baths, and pharmacology, as well as a 5th and final section, with blocks of text separated by stars. The first and largest section of the manuscript is the botany section that contains detailed drawings of plants as if from another world or a lost continent, plants no one can identify and no one has ever seen before. The astronomy and astrology section has illustrations of the stars, the sun and the moon alongside several zodiac signs. Immersed in strange, shared baths, female figures frolic through the pages of the text's balneological section, while the pharmaceutical section is filled with what appears to be medicinal plants, indicated by the inclusion of medicinal bottles throughout this fantastical illustration. Like Voynich, many modern scholars suspect that the manuscript's text is a ciphered form of a familiar language, with their theories of the tome's latent linguistics flitting from Latin to Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs and Toltecs of Mexico. Others say that the text is an artificial language or strange shorthand, and others still see the text as meaningless scribbles. The theories of the tome are, thus, all over the place, with no one opinion snagging widespread support. The Voynich manuscript continues to mystify medievalists and confuse cryptologists centuries after its supposed creation. It remains as impenetrable and inexplicable as ever. But is this truly one of the mysteries in the histories? A book on female maintenance? Maybe. Want to see the full episode? Sign up for the show notes and the link will be in next week's email.
Ransom Godwin at Mountain High Time is locked in a basement writing new episodes to keep your addiction to mysteries facilitated.
Signing up for the show notes, you get behind-the-scenes thoughts and points we sometimes can't relay over social media platforms. Brought to you by ITM Trading. ITM Trading has spent the last 28+ years developing a team of expert researchers and gold and silver analysts to make this possible. Simply put, we build strategies which are historically proven to protect your wealth and assets through any economic downturn. 866-834-1422. That's 866-834-1422.
And he wrote this book, and he points out in the book this $2 billion sleep aid industry where people are prescribed this drug, and you take it right before you go to sleep, similar to melatonin. But what it does is it's a depressant. It knocks you unconscious, and it relieves a chemical called adenosine in our body. And basically throughout the day, adenosine builds up. And as it builds up in our body, it causes us to desire sleep. So it manages that adenosine. So you wake up without the desire for sleep. And this has to feel amazing. If you woke up for the last 10 days and all you could think about is, I wish I could get some sleep. And then you wake up on this day after taking one of these sleep aids and you're like, I don't feel like I need sleep. That sounds amazing. The problem is, and this is what Dr. Matthew Walker points out, is you don't get the REM sleep, the NREM sleep, that deep healing and restorative sleep that you actually need. So you're actually doing damage because you're interrupting that sleep and you're not allowing it to occur. So both melatonin and these quote unquote sleep aids you take at night, compare and contrast that with ours, the C60 Evo formula you take in the morning. It provides mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. Now, I'm not aware of, there's 2 things that really pop to mind when I'm thinking about what you might be able to, and this is actually activities, do in the morning. If you get exercise in the morning, you will sleep better that night, right? If you get exposure to the sun, you'll get that circadian rhythm, right? Your rhythm of sleep in line with the rising and falling of the sun, and that will help you sleep at night. Other than that, I'm just not aware of things that you can take in the morning. Again, mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night.
Seems like the sleeping is a problem around the world. I don't know if it's just more stress or what it is, busier lives, or, you're on social in the morning or evening, you're on the phone, and that kind of disrupts, and blue light blockers and all that. But anything that can help, because deprivation of sleep seems to be not just in our country, it seems to be a global phenomenon.
And a lot of people don't realize how detrimental it is. I actually call that book Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. I call it the scariest book about sleep you'll ever read. I also call it the Freddy Krueger of sleep books, right? You may remember Freddy Krueger, the hands guy from Nightmare on Elm Street, but he would scare you out of your nightmare and actually join you, which is terrifying. That's the first kind of scary movie I ever remember. But I say that about the book in that it will scare you to sleep, right? You read this and you learn about the negative impact on your physical, mental, and emotional well-being that a lack of sleep gives you. And you're like, okay, sleep has to become a priority. And there's a perfect example of this. Every year, the world runs a multi-billion person research study on sleep deprivation twice a year. And you're like, wait, how do you do a billion person research study? Well, it's called daylight savings time. And on the part of the year when we add an hour of sleep, heart attacks and strokes go down by about 25%. When we subtract that sleep, they go up by 25%. So 1 hour plus or minus 1 hour of sleep has a 25% negative impact or a 25% positive impact on heart attack. It literally has a physiological impact on our bodies, and a lot of people don't realize it. And that's, when people are asking me, hey, Chris, you have all these amazing testimonials, and they're about hair, and they're about elbows and fingers and hands and knees and toes, like literally from head to toe, what might be driving this? And if we just rested our hat on sleep is better, then we all know sleep will improve your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And that could be the answer to why we're getting all these testimonials.
Could I ask another question about a modern day phenomenon that's happening as well, in addition to the sleep?
Yeah.
GMO and glyphosate and these different kind of pesticides and herbicides that are now just so abundant that they're almost forever chemicals that are around us. I mean, there's nowhere that you can really go in a store. If you tested supermarket foods, I would say nearly 100%, and I'm not going to say 100, but nearly 100% would contain glyphosate. If it was anywhere grown on a commercial farm and touched a factory somewhere, and same with the pesticides, well, that is a type of pesticide, but herbicides there, it's pervasive in our foods. And again, with people moving over to lower quality food choices because they cost less money, I mean, all of this in our food, what effect does it have on nullifying, I guess, or cleaning would be maybe a better word of that, what I consider poison that's put on our food that needs to be washed off. Walk me through that chain of start to finish on how this might help somebody who's worried about that when they realize, all right, they're going to need to step down in their choices, or the availability of certain foods that you used to enjoy that you knew were clean might just disappear. And that's another thing a lot of people are seeing is the amount of store choices in the store. The amount of choices on that top shelf that a lot of people used to enjoy are just shrinking, or are just gone. So this is the kind of world we're moving into: less choice, lower quality, and yeah.
I'll start with GMO, genetically modified organisms.
Now it's bioengineered ingredients, Chris. How dare you?
So I have to be honest. My thought, I'm just a very analytical person, and my first thought to GMOs was, hey, you're making more food. This has to be good. Until I read an article about what these GMOs are actually accomplishing. And what they typically accomplish is they become better at repelling insects eating them, right? So what that boils down to is it causes a live thing that might want to eat this plant to no longer want to eat this plant. And I don't know if you've done the math, but we are live things. And so we have similar reactions to these insects when we eat these GMO foods. In that case, it causes leaky gut, just inflames our systems. And so you actually do, and now I do, stay away from GMOs. So I used to think, hey, at least, one could argue, well, at least we have enough food to keep people alive. I think we'll be fine if we shifted to organic. We've just got to, be smarter about it. So that's the GMOs. And again, the GMOs have this propensity to increase leaky gut, and then also increase inflammation in your body. And then the next is glyphosate is the big one, really just pesticides in general. There is some research that shows even the organic products, because they tend to be farmed in a field close to fields where there are not organic products, where they're using pesticides, they're spray over. So even with your organic products, you still want to wash them, right? That's just a good habit. I can give you a tip when it comes to glyphosate, which you're right is everywhere except in Europe. I think Europe has decided that long ago decided that glyphosate shouldn't be used. But what you can do is you can actually soak those vegetables in a water and baking soda combination. You can just look it up on the web. I don't know if it's a 1-to-1 ratio or whatever. It needs to be soaking for 3 minutes, but that breaks apart the glyphosate so that it doesn't do the damage that it would do if you just consume it. But again, glyphosate is going to get in, cause leaky gut, and cause inflammation. So first off, the product that we recommend is in olive oil, and it's well documented that olive oil has amazing benefits for your gut biome and impacts on leaky gut. By the way, just to share, leaky gut, your entire intestine system has one barrier. It's a one-cell barrier, and they say, imagine a tennis court, except this barrier is only one cell thick. So as much area as a tennis court, but only one cell thick. So it's incredibly small. And its job, if you think about, I like the pool noodle example, right? You take a pool noodle, and if you were to take a marble and drop it through the interior of the pool noodle, would you say that that marble at any point was part of the styrofoam? And the answer is no, it was never part of the styrofoam. It was in the hole. Well, we've got the same process from our mouth to our anus. That is, food goes in, and it's not actually in our system. It's in the tube. It's in the hole that exists in that noodle. In order to get into our system, it's got to get through this gut lining, this one single-celled gut lining. And that the job of that gut lining is to make sure things that are not supposed to get into us, to get into our styrofoam, right? To continue that example, don't, and the ones that are actually do, right? When you have leaky gut, you have permeations. You actually have holes in that barrier. And so now things that shouldn't be in your blood system get into your blood system. This is actually, everybody's familiar with gluten being a problem for a lot of people, and some people it's a really huge problem, can cause celiac disease. That's actually typically going through a leaky gut. Gluten can get through a leaky gut, and so if you heal the leaky gut, and it can cause leaky gut. If you heal that leaky gut, then you're in a much better place. You're actually having less inflammation in your body. Olive oil does a great job of helping the bacteria that manage that single cell wall. And then you look at how we can potentially, so I can't speak to anything that actually helps that. What I can say is, hey, Chris, I've noticed, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Chris, I've noticed that I have this benefit from taking your product, why might that be working, right? I can answer that question, and it might be working because it does have a positive impact on inflammation. And I can say olive oil has a positive impact on inflammation, and we believe that the ESS60 molecule might be driving that mechanism that's beneficial to those people if that were an experience they were having.
The fact that I made it for years on sticks that were broken with the ESS60 is a real sign, in my opinion, that for me, the inflammation benefit was massive. Also for dogs that show their owners and then they tell us. It's just been massive, the response and the results, but I'm just speaking for myself. And as Chris says, oh, it probably won't happen for you. Well, as Patty says, but we hope it will. And no matter what deals you get, we have all kinds of discounts. Use David's code at checkout, which you'll find in the link that we mentioned. There's a code for another 10% off at checkout. There's the pet formulas, dog lover set, cat lover set. We also have, for people that travel, like David, around the world, pretty amazing, the capsules, and they won't take them out of your carry-on. This way you can take your C60 Evo with you, the strong stuff in olive oil.
You went from the backpacking days through the Pyrenees to a rolling luggage, have you?
Only if I want to take the big bottle to a party. But boy, it is quite a figure of speech. And I do find that when I mention little details like won the Nobel Prize or, 90% longer life, people will ask me later, what were you talking about? But it really makes a difference. It gives you energy that's noticeable, and it gives you more radiance, I think, in your step, your glow. I can recognize people on Evo. I just feel like I look at you guys and you look energized and you look healthy.
And word of the day, radiance. I'm going to put that as the word of the day. Everybody look it up, enjoy it, and be it. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. Hope you got something out of the talk. I mean, and when we go through this, it's truly about providing information so you can, get something out of it and that you can use in your daily life. And that's the whole thing about providing value in many ways, shapes, and forms. Products are one thing, but just information to help you live a better, higher quality life. I mean, that is value in itself. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope see you next time, and then bye for now.
Thank you.
Thankfully, we don't have to worry about not having food to last. We have my Patriot supply. And right now, you can save $200 on a 3-month food kit with ADAPT 2030. Adapt and stay prepared.